what was his name again? Snorri. Are there any revelations? Maybe. Bitch mode activated. Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. Yes. So we follow Freya. Freya is, at the start of the book, she is in a very unhappy marriage. I mean, her husband is probably satisfied in some way, but she's like, no, not for me. So events lead to other events, and basically, a fight breaks loose, and it's discovered that she has she has God's blood in her, which basically means she has a bit of a magical abilities, because it's that kind of a world. And yeah, her ability just happens to be that she's the Shield Maiden that's gonna unite the land, as prophesized by some lady. We find out a lot more about this prophecy and who the prophet was, and so on and so forth. But basically, she's taken from her unhappy marriage, and then she's kind of married off to this to this other dude who what was his name again? Snorri, because that's hilarious. It's all like North mythology based kind of a deal, so it's Viking stuff, more or less. Not really, but that's what you can picture in your brains. It's not Viking times, but basically that. Anyway, so Snorri, so he is already married to a lady called Ylva, who has a son with, but he was previously married to another person. What was the name again? Saga, who he had a son with called Bjorn. Bjorn is a fully grown man, by the way, and I couldn't really understand what age the son between Snorri and Ylva was, the like half brother of Bjorn. He was, I want to say, a teenager, but somewhere along those lines. Anyway, he's already married. Snorri's married to Ylva, but he takes a second wife. That is Freya. Yes, happy times, happy families. Yeah. Well, revelations. No. Are there any revelations? Maybe. Anyway, basically what Snorri wants to do is, so he has some, is kingdom the right word to use? Let's say kingdom, because that's going to make it easier for me to say. So he has one kingdom, and then there are like other kingdoms. Actually, it's not a kingdom, because that's what he wants to make it into. What's the one? So he has a county. This is going to be complicated. So he has a county, and there are other counties about with other leaders of said county. This is a weird explanation. I don't remember the words, okay? And that's probably, if I remembered the words, that was probably going to be even worse than this explanation. Anyway, so he has one county. He wants all the counties to unite under one king, and the king should obviously be Snorri. At least that's what Snorri sees in this scenario. Anyway, yeah, that's actually, cities is probably the more correct wording of it all. Anyway, never mind. Yeah. There's so many things. So, just to make it more interesting, Freya is obviously not interested in Snorri at all. However, she is very interested in Bjorn. And yes, he is interested in her as well. There's this back and forth kind of a deal, flirting kind of thing going on for most of the book. Nothing actually happens. until like way later when they more or less confessed their love for each other. Yeah. So basically, for Snorri's idea to like unite the different places into one kingdom is to basically make war and take over said place, and you know, but there's a lot of warring stuff going on, Viking style. I'm gonna call it Viking style because that's where my brain is going. Anyway, I love how weird I am. My brain, honestly. Basically, what we get is Freya goes through training, she goes through war, she goes through what Snorri likes to call tests from the gods. Yeah, loads of stuff like that. And then it's the end of the book. So, like, the beginning of the book, so slow, it took me a good while to actually get into it and to find it interesting to read and not want to put down. Probably because the chapters are quite long, and they felt long because there were some big pages. I don't know. Anyway, so it took me a while to get into, and then I got into it and I was like, this very much feels like a standalone kind of a book. It's not. I mean, it does say Saga of the Unfated Book 1 on the cover, so, you know, there's going to be at least one more book. A saga feels like there's going to be more than 2 books, but who the hell knows by that. I go through most of the book just having the standalone vibe, and then we've reached the end, and I'm like, well, this is kind of starting to feel like so they walked into the sunset and they lived happily ever after, the end. Except, you know, plot twist, cliffhanger, what's gonna happen in book 2. So this is book 1. I'm gonna put up on the screen, I'm gonna put up book 1 and book 2, the covers, because I feel like we have book 1 and it's just like this kind of, I mean, fairy tale, not fairy tale, that's the wrong word. We have this like wonderful, beautiful maiden kind of a vibe. And then we have book 2 and the cover is like maiden's bitch mode. Bitch mode activated. So, you know, curious to see. I was gonna go like, do I really want to read more? But then, I mean, there's some smut by the end of the book, I'm not gonna lie, which was a bit like, what the hell is happening here? And like, there's a person next to you, and how is this a good thing? I don't even know anymore. I had questions. I didn't necessarily want answers for those questions, but I did have questions of why was this happening right now. Really weird timing, but okay, why not? So yeah, honestly, a bit off-putting by that point, but I'm intrigued enough to want to know what book 2 is gonna give. There were some bits here and there that I was... So there's a, let's say, a spy among them. Let's call them that. And I had my suspicions and I was definitely right about them. However, there was a person that I was like, what? When did this happen? Yeah. Curious to see. I believe the second book is coming out sometime in 2025. I don't remember when I can look it up. Let's just look it up. Why be lazy? Honestly. Okay, so currently it says May 13th, 2025 is book 2's due date. So we'll see. I shall see if and when my library gets it. Hopefully this summer. But then again, this book has been kind of a pain to get a hold of. I've had to lend it twice and read it at two different points, like 2 months apart, because I did not have time to finish the book in the first round. Basically, if you give me a time limit of like a week, I don't want to read the book. Yeah, no. The less time I have, the less I want to do it. So basically, that's it. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. Take care, bye-bye.